Hello everybody and welcome back to Flyway J here. Route 17 of 50 of my trip around the Nordics. Today we're taking a trip from Egilsstadir over to Akureyri. But today we've got something special. We're going to be flying nothing other than the Beechcraft 17. A beautiful biplane. Hopefully we're going to get there today in about 40 minutes. Shouldn't take too long. Going to be routing in a westerly direction, 2 passengers on board, fuel roughly 247 kilograms, about 75% of capacity, and a bag of about 60 kilograms worth of weight. Beautiful looking aircraft, quite a sporty model as well. It's going to get us there quite quick. It's my first time really flying this aircraft, so give me a break if I make a couple of mistakes along the way, but I think everything should be fine. Let's just see how we go. Without further ado, let's just jump in the cockpit. Alright, so first things we want to do is check the parking brake is set, after I remove this of course. Alright, down here we've got the parking brake, tailwheel lock, landing gear. Okay, that's the parking brake set. Throttle will set to idle. Landing gear lever has got to be down. I believe that is over, where is it now? Here we go, landing gear lever down. Flaps are all the way up. We can actually verify that visually. Flaps look like they're up, all good. Next thing's mag switches. These have got to be on the off position. That's over there. Battery and alternator switch. That is over here. Master switch, battery is off. Propeller is set to high RPM. So let's just set that all the way in. Fuel flow mixture back to idle cutoff. Battery alternator switch can go on. So the alternator is over here. Panel lights is on if required. We'll turn that on, it's a bit dark in here. Fuel selector, let's select the fullest tank on both. Fuel quantities. Where would that be? Fuel quantity will come up over here. Flight controls, let's have a quick look and see if they're free and correct. Notably only the top wing has ailerons. Jump back in the cockpit. Weather looks fine on the way. We're going to be taking off in a southerly direction and then routing westbound. And then by the time we get to Akureyri, we're going to be landing in the northerly direction. Winds today are 270 at 4 knots. Current temperature is 15 degrees, or minus 15 degrees, shall I say. Very cold weather, so let's see how this bird performs in the cold weather. We're going to be flying on the VATSIM network today, so once I've got it started up, I'll set the radios for the VATSIM. It doesn't look like anyone's controlling this area at the moment, so let's do that once I get the aircraft started. Speaking of which, almost there. Transponder will set to standby, which it already is. Beacon goes on. Alright. Engine propeller area. Clear prop. 1/4 inch. Propeller is set at high RPM. Mixture goes to full rich. Mag switches go to both. Ignition button. Let's get her started. See the battery I need to start up. And there she goes. Okay, what we're going to do is take the throttle to idle. Check the oil pressure is coming up. All good. Oil pressures, temperatures in the green. Ammeter and voltmeter. Amps are charging. Engine instruments look good. Concerned about that fuel though. Not sure why that's so low. Just want to double check quickly what the fuel situation is like. Otherwise we've got to put some in. Yep, fuel looks good. Alright. Let's get the avionics on. Set this to the standby frequency or the general frequency for VATSIM 122.8. And turn on the, I'm just going to squawk 2000 for the sake of it. Nav lights are on. Let's set our heading quickly. Or our compass, shall I say. 122. About there. Alright, she looks good. We're going to try and taxi her all the way to the end of the runway, turn around and head south. Okay, what we do now, parking brake off. Make sure she's in idle. Going to give some hard rudder to the left and potentially some differential braking. What a beautiful plane. Bring that throttle back down. Looks like we have quite a covered runway. Just going to do a brake check quickly. Brakes are good. What we want to do while we're taxiing is also check our turn coordinator. Everything seems to be fine. Artificial horizon, that is fine. Concerned about this fuel, but should be okay. Should be able to see a nice sunrise just after takeoff. It's going to be behind us, but should be still a nice change of daylight, or change to daylight, shall I say. Interestingly, the daylight hours in these northern latitudes at this time of year is actually quite bad, quite limited. So very short days. That's why we've got to get this flight done. Just going to slow the speed down a little bit. Alright, almost there. I'm just going to go into this sort of cleaner patch just beyond the threshold lights and just do my turn over here so I can line up with the runway. You can see the sun rising over there in the east. Perfect. Parking brake set and back in the cockpit. Is this a fuel flow measure maybe? That's what I think it is. It's fuel flow. Suction is good. Charging. I mean, where would the fuel level be? That's something I'll figure out for another flight, but as long as this light doesn't come on, I think we're good. Alright, I'll figure it. Okay, let's get this going. Parking brake is set, fuel quantity is checked, fuel selector is on and in the full... Oh gosh. On and in the fullest tank. That wasn't good. Throttle is idle, confirmed. Propeller high RPM, checked. Mixture full rich, checked. Elevator trim, set for takeoff, checked. Flaps, we're going to go one stage down and verify visually. Okay, checked. Flight controls, free and correct again. Let's give that an old move. Free and correct. Radio and avionics, got that set. Transponder we can set to altitude. Energy instruments checked. Landing lights go on. Those are these. Pitot heat, fuel pump. Alright. What we'll also like to do here is lock the tail wheel so we don't get any flutter of that tail wheel. Alright, the aircraft looks good. Sun looks like it's rising. Let's see if we can make our way to Akureyri Airport. Can hear the fuel pump whining. Parking brake off. And let's go. Just gonna sit up a little bit higher so I can see over this nose. There's full power. After takeoff, gear up. Touching those brakes. There's a bit of wind, but we should be fine. Flaps all the way up. The maximum flap speed is 100 knots there. on this aircraft. Just going to trim her a bit for the climb, come back on the throttle. You can actually see how quickly it climbs, 2,000 feet in no time. Now turn off the landing lights, fuel pump can come off. Alright, we can start a gentle turn to the right, get ourselves on course. Might be climbing a little bit fast, so I'm going to just bring up that speed. I'm looking for roughly 290 degrees. That should be about there. 290. Still climbing really well. You can see the climb rate on this aircraft is really phenomenal. Climbing at 130 knots, our cruise speed is going to be about 175 knots. So really going to be covering this distance in very little time at all. There's 7,000. Just going to slow this down a bit so I don't go straight through the 8,000. Okay, coming up to 8,000, just going to slow the climb somewhat. Alrighty, 8,000 feet. I'm going to come back on the speed. Unfortunately, no autopilot in this aircraft, so I'm going to have to hand fly all the way, which is not a problem. It's a short flight. I'm used to that kind of thing anyway. Kind of makes you wonder how they did it back in the day. Okay, I'm going to trim this down somewhat. There we go. I think that should be fine. Speed looks good, about 175 exactly on the numbers. That's our cruise speed. Might as well have a look around and see what the weather's like. Okay, so that definitely is the fuel flow indicator over here on the right. Guess your guess is as good as mine what the fuel level situation is. As we go, we kind of just have a look. Temperatures are in the green, manifold pressure is good, flaps are up, exhaust temperature is good, charging, suction looks good. Carburetor, I'm not sure why that's so low, but maybe that's some sort of a... who knows. Oh, cool. I'm straight into a cloud. Maintaining that height perfectly, stable flight. Drifting a bit off the heading though. Just got to correct that. So some interesting facts about the D-17 or the Beechcraft Model 17 Staggerwing. It's an American biplane, was conceived and built, first built during the Great Depression in America by Walter H. Beech and airplane designer Ted Wells. Obviously you know where the name Staggerwing comes from. It's quite clear from the design of the aircraft. It was first flown in 1932, which is actually unbelievable considering how quickly aviation developed from the first flight in the early 1900s. The purpose of the aircraft was really for it to be an executive aircraft, almost like what you would imagine a private jet is. Obviously they didn't have any jet technology back in the 30s, so this is as good as it can get. This was the peak of private aviation, as it were. In terms of numbers built, there was 785 of these built throughout its lifespan or construction lifespan. But it is really quite a beautiful design if you think about it. I'm going to check this cabin heat. Open this up and see if we can warm the cockpit up somewhat. Pretty sure with the temperature outside being what it is, I'm surprised it hasn't frosted up over on the inside here. Just got to get back on that altitude. If you ever want to join me on one of these flights, you're more than welcome to. Just drop me a message on YouTube and we can arrange a date and time and we can fly together. It'd be nice to buddy up and share the skies together. Also be nice to have some traffic to talk to. You can see on VATSPY that there's currently no one flying over Iceland. However, there are some flights coming in across the ocean. I think by the time they land, we'll probably be on the ground as well. We'll definitely be on radio range though. Seem to have entered a bit of a dive there. Let's not do that. Not sure if that was me or the weather. Microsoft Flight Sim's really come a long way with the weather, how they manage it, how it looks. It's fantastic. I'm trying out DLSS, I think it's called, for the first time in this flight. It really seems quite nice. No stuttering. Fairly crisp, I think. Maybe it could be a slightly better. I'm not sure if I'm imagining it, but looks good. Oh, there's that turn in the cloud. Gotta avoid that. Just balance her out. When you're flying VFR, you constantly have your eyes on these this six-pack. So want to get back up to 8,000. We're about 25% of the way. Okay, out of the cloud. Let's get back. Not sure to what extent the sun comes up here. I know it does, but certainly taking its time. Nothing better than an early morning flight. Looks like there's some cloud cover up ahead. I'm gonna actually take her down slightly, maybe down to 6,000. Just so we can maybe get away from this cloud layer. Just gonna pull the carb while we do that, just to prevent freezing on the carb. Still want to maintain that speed. Yeah, 6,000 should do it. Just gonna level off here. There's 6,000. I'm actually gonna go down to let's go to 4.5. Which is quite low, but I think we should be fine. At least we're out of that cloud lever. Alrighty, there's 4,500. Let's level off there, trim her out, and let's just balance the plane. Good stuff. Oops. It's going to climb slowly back up to 4,500, dropped a bit low there. Alrighty, we're back in the cruise. At least now we can see a bit more visual, which is what VFR rules require. Oh, there's someone I can see on the map at Akureyri. Let's have a look at the landscape around us. Look at that. What a beautiful place. Had a bit of a hiatus since my last flight. Last time I flew here it was a lot more green. But this time around it's obviously covered in snow because it's winter. In terms of our approach to Akureyri, it's basically going to be a northerly approach, landing on runway 01, I believe. Wind's going to be blowing out of from 36 degrees, 7 knots. So hopefully I can put this rare bird down on the ground in one piece. Just trying to come back on course. Let's have a look around outside. I'm quite surprised the sun hasn't come up yet. Oh, there we go. Look at that. What a beautiful aircraft. I really can't get over it. Now, as I have it, our destination is going to be somewhere over there that we should see quite a big lake or ocean, maybe inlet. It's an inlet or fjord. Somewhere on the right here. And then the airport is going to be pretty much right at the bottom end of that, or the most southern tip of it. It's quite an easy way to find it if we get lost. I think I can kind of make it out, but I'm not 100% sure. I think the airport should be around here. But let's go have a look. What I want to do is pretty much fly overhead the dam, or the inlet, the fjord, sorry. Route southbound, fly over the airport, and then come in for a landing. It'll be the best way to kind of see the area, which is after all why we do this. Very cold and barren looking place. Alrighty. You can see a road down here. Maybe that's something to follow. But judging by the map, I don't think that's going the direction that we need to go. All right. Doing a good clean 170 knots. Airspeed, not sure what the ground speed is. It's quite amazing what they managed to accomplish with this aircraft. Just generally. Also Microsoft Flight Simulator. Sun definitely starting to come up a bit better now. Yeah, daytime landing. According to my calculations and my maps, the airport should be right in front of us. Whoops. Small little town down there on the left. I'm a little bit concerned landing this thing on a snow-covered runway. But let's see what we get. Let's have a look at the outside again. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's where we need to be, is in that little valley in the front there. Very rudimentary navigation tools, if any. Looks like we've got a VIAR over here. I was hoping to use an NDB. I'm not sure if this is also an NDB. Nope. There is a VIAR around these areas though, so let's quickly have a look and see if I can get that frequency. Okay, we've got it as 113.6. See if it comes alive, and it is. It should actually be a perfect place to route to, so let's see. We're going heading 30-ish. Should get us there. It's actually not a bad idea, because what that'll allow us to do is, because it's a little bit further up on the fjord, we can kind of line up or sort of cross over that and then route southbound towards the airport along the coast, which will be nice. My only concern is these hills in front of us. So let's see. There's no DME indicator, so we won't know how far we are, which is not ideal, but at least we can have a direction. $6,000 should be fine. So we're pretty much routing towards the DME, and then we're gonna, from there, start slowing down, head straight to the airport. I'm drifting a bit to the left, so I'll just try and get back on track. Compass and direction indicator seems to be pretty much still very well aligned. Alright, I don't want to go too high, otherwise we risk going back into this cloud layer. Which I think we kind of already are in. Coming back on that speed a little bit. Until the car beat off, I left that on for way too long. Okay, we should be able to slip right in between this cloud layer and the mountain. I feel like the wind is really picked up and our ground speed is not very high. Airport's over here somewhere. Our fuel seems to be doing just fine. Alright, there's the fjord up front. And we're just going to follow it along the coastline straight down, which should bring us to the airport. Oh god, that's it. I spoke too soon. Whoop. Changing tanks. That helped. Well, that was quite nerve-wracking. Nearly had to go and find a place to land. Which I guess might even have been at the top of this hill. Survival would be low though. Yeah, it doesn't look like too many options down there. Depends if these rivers are frozen over or not. Looks like they are. Maybe this field down here. Anyways, we survived. See if we can survive the landing. So there's the town or city of Akureyri. And once we get over this hill, I'll start the descent. Put us down for what is hopefully a gentle landing. Okay, I'm going to take us down to about 1,000 foot above ground level. So I'm going to slow us down. Car beat goes on. Flaps are up. Just going to try and get that speed down to about 110-ish knots so I can start, you know, dropping flaps and that sort of thing. Descent rate's a little bit fast. Let's see if we can see the airport around here. And there it is. There's the runway. Perfect. Okay, descent checklist. Radios are set, descent speed 110 knots, I'm a bit fast for that. Flaps are up, landing gear are up, fuel balance checked apparently. Check the weather, seems fine. Approach checklist, landing lights are on. Oh, I'm not on approach yet, so let me just actually get there. Just gonna try and bring that speed back a bit. There we go. It almost looks like a one-way in type of a runway. I'm just going to perform a right-hand circuit so I don't have to fly over the town. Just in case I have to... my engine fails or something like that. It's not typical to fly a right-hand standard circuit, but in some airports that is the norm. Altitude looks good. Try and bring that speed back a little bit. Okay, we can do the approach checklist now. Landing lights go on. It's those two. High RPM on the propeller. Airspeed is still good. Mixture is full rich. Speed established. Let's go for 100. Just gonna pull the nose up a little bit so we lose that airspeed. There's 100. First stage of flaps. That's 10 degrees. Just gotta watch that airspeed now. Just gonna wait a little bit for the landing gear until I've turned base. Speed looking good. Weather looking good. It's quite a nice long runway. Aircraft is very stable. Looking for 80 for the landing gear. I'm going to try and extend this downwind leg as far as possible so I can have a lot of time to get set up for the landing. They're really quite cool flying in between these two valleys. Just going to keep going a little bit longer. Speed is looking good. Okay, I'm just going to get the fuel pump on, just in case we have to go around. Term lights off, nav lights on, panel lights on, master avionics, everything's good. Munitions on. Alright, let's see if we can put her on the ground. There's 90 knots. I'm going to come off a little bit. I'm looking for 80 knots. Just flying a slightly misshapen base. I would assume that's some sort of a gear warning. Second stage of flap. 1,000 feet above. Okay, let's get set up now. There's 80 knots. Gear goes down. Bit low in the approach. Okay, we're looking for 60 knots to touch down. Last stage of flaps. Just gonna hold this altitude till I'm back on the glide slope. Okay, speed is good, 65. Just gonna trim her out for that. Just waiting for us to come back on that glide slope. So watch that speeding. Okay, approach is stable. Speed looks good. Not so sure about that glide slope, but okay. It's going to be a bit hard to see how far I am off the ground.
30, 20, 10.
Well, it was a bit rougher than I thought, but apparently not so bad. Look at that. Welcome to Akureyri. Slow the aircraft down a bit. Oh, it's quite slippery. This looks like a parking area. Turn those landing lights off. I'm going to park right in front of the main terminal building. Stand by. We'll stop. Parking brakes on. Let's turn her off. Shutdown checklist is parking brake is set, throttle is idle, nav lights we can turn off. Nav lights off. Mag switches off. Fuel flow cut off. Fuel selector is off. Fuel selector is off. Beacon off. Fuel pump off. Beacon off. Panel lights off. Battery switch off. Not sure why the panel light comes on when the... Oh, is that my torch? That's my torch. Securing aircraft, parking brake, verify set, throttle, all switches. And there you have it. Welcome to Akureyri. Thank you for flying with me. That was quite a cool flight. Bit rough learning the use new planes, but I tried to get some variety in my life. Obviously it's not going to be perfect. I learn these things as I go. But what a special sunrise in the special plane. Thank you so much for flying with me. Flyaway J is out. Peace.